Good evening, listeners, viewers from Dominica and from the wider region, West Indies. We met today in Dominica and a long day, very, very fruitful discussions. One of the items we got review from was the governance review report, which is under the chairmanship of Don Webby. The team has been working and we've expected to get a final report which will be submitted to our board meeting in December. The board this year is forecasting a surplus for the year ended 30th September 2016. I'm not going to give you the number at this point in time. I know everybody wants to know. But what I can tell you is that we forecasted to spend in excess of $40 million next year in our program. We have 2 A-team tours planned in that, a couple of tours by our age group players under 19s, and of course huge expenditure on our women's World Cup triumph in England, and of course our preparation to defend our 2020 title in 2018. So those are some of the programs that we'll be spending on next year. The board also received a report from our Chief Executive Officer with respect to finalizing the completion of the purchase of the sticky wicket in Antigua with the government, which will become our new headquarters. And I need to read this for you. The Audit Risk and Compliance Committee is reporting that the board's financial statements have been prepared on time and within best practices. Also, the reports are in keeping with internal and external auditors conducted by Pricewaterhouse and KPMG respectively. The two major risks that were identified in our business at this point in time is the men's team performances in ODI and Test cricket, which we continue to take under serious review. The other one was the Professional Cricket League, now to start its third year in November. And as such, we've set up an internal task force to review the operations for the last 2 years and to recommend, to give us recommendations going forward and improving it. The A-team tour was finalized. The team will be announced shortly, and they leave for Sri Lanka in October. The CEO also reported on the just concluded ICC meetings where they discussed the pooling of commercial overseas broadcasts and the two-tier system, and has reported that these discussions will continue at the Board of Directors meeting to be held in South Africa, in Cape Town. Andy Atkinson, as you would have seen from some reports, has been in the region conducting curators workshop in Antigua. And we've also completed our level 3 coaching courses, and we now have an additional 25 top-ranked coaches added to our pool. And not most importantly, but also that today the board approved Lockhart Sebastian as the replacement selector for Ambassador the Honorable Courtney Walsh, who has gone on as the bowling coach for Bangladesh.
You just mentioned Mr. Sebastian being appointed a selector and replacing Courtney Walsh. My question to you is, Courtney Walsh took up the position as a coach in Bangladesh. Given his status in West Indies cricket, the leading wicket taker and whatnot, are you a bit disappointed maybe that that happened, that he couldn't stick around for West Indies cricket? Or what's your views on that?
Well, I think we're disappointed that we've not been able to utilize all our former players in some shape or form. But we also have a bowling coach in Roddy Eswick now leading the coaching stint. We would love to have all our former players engage in some way. And it's interesting that you've asked us that, because we've also agreed, and we'd have mentioned it before, on our ambassador program, where we'll be engaging our former players, legends if you want to call it, using them to further enhance West Indies cricket. And that we'll roll out the full names to you in very short order. That starts October 1. So on one hand, we're disappointed. On the other hand, I think he's taking on a role that we hope in future he'll be able to come back and potentially maybe come back as the head coach of the West Indies at some point in time. And it's also part of the development, his own personal development and development of the region. Just to mention as well that Courtney Walsh is also one of the graduates of the recently concluded Level 3 program in Barbados.
There have been rumors circulating throughout the region that a recommendation could have come today regarding the head coach, Phil Simmons. Would you like to clarify what's the position of that?
We did discuss, as I said to you, the two major risks that we've identified now. Our top two risks are the performances of the test team and the ODI team, so that was discussed at length.
And would you be at liberty to give us some insight as to what was discussed? Is Phil Simmons?
At the appropriate time, I think we have to continue the discussions internally, and at the appropriate time we'll make any announcements that are deemed necessary.
You mentioned about the task force and the 4-day competition. Have you gotten a report in terms of the task force, in terms of the preparation of the 4-day cricket professional league?
Right. What we have a lot of statistical data around the performances of the PCL. What we know is that last season, the performances improved quite significantly. Batting, bowling, we had about 16 players, if I'm not mistaken, with averaging over 45 in the season. We had a number of wicket takers taking in excess of 40 wickets. But what we had was predominance of spin bowlers again. So that's something we need to look at. The review is going to do less about the cricketing, but more about the support behind the players. So we need to ensure that the players are given the full support in order to achieve. We're talking about the marketing support around the franchise so that they can get more resources to help the players. We're talking about making sure that they have the physios and all of those things in place. So the review is comprehensive, but what we do have, and we'll release it to you in due form, is the statistical information of the PCL, and from where we sit, based on the numbers, it has told us in the last 2 years that there has been improvement over the 2 seasons.
The board has stated in the past that it doesn't get involved with the selection of players, that you have your selection panel. But recently we saw the T20 captain, former captain Darren Sammy, being dropped from the team. Given that Sammy, won 2 World Championships for the West Indies and has had a good form, good running the team at the T20 level. Your comments on Darren Sammy?
Yeah, well, we mean that the board does not get involved in the selection of the team, and you'd have seen Darren Sammy's own broadcast. Darren Sammy did ask that question of the selectors at the Symposium in Florida, and it was clarified.
You mentioned about, and I see the question based on the 4-day, because you took all the statistics you get. Are the board satisfied with the way the franchises have been running in terms of the franchises from the different territories?
No, and that's why we are evaluating it. So obviously, it's a brand new car we put on the road. It's 2 years. We need to constantly evaluate it. As a matter of fact, Julian is chairman of the franchise in the Windward Islands and may want to comment on that specifically.
Yes, there's always room for improvement in anything that you do, and this is what the review is going to seek to do. But generally, all the franchises have shown good improvement. The president did mention improvement in scores. The average batting score has moved from 261 to 277. So that's a big leap, and of course we've had more hundreds, we've had more 50s, more players averaging. We have 4 players averaging over 60, and this is very significant indeed. Yes, there are room for improvements, and that's what we hope to get we hope to do after the review.
When you're looking at assessment, you could also add that the board just last year put in the requirement for minimum fitness standards at 18.5. And we know that a number of our players, in fact, hardly any of our players were at that standard. And the president made mention of the fact that we have been struggling in one-day and test cricket. That's the version of the games, the versions of the game where you need fitter players, where you need to be physically fit and mentally fit and prepared to go out and execute. And we have been struggling at that level. Now, 1 year later, I would say just today, for instance, when I checked up with the guys who came in on the franchise in the Windwards, that's the winners of Volcanoes. When we tested the guys when they came in about 6 weeks ago, not one of them was at minimum standard. When they did the test just this morning, most of them, in fact, were up to the standard or close to it from those who the test was done at. So again, the board is setting standards for the franchise, and it's not just the Windwards, it's all of them. And we are hoping that by setting those kind of standards and adhering to them, then we will get better cricketers and get people playing better. I mean, the chairman of the cricket committee made mention of the fact that for the first time in a long time, you had about four players averaging over 60 runs. That's four batsmen. The number of centuries increased. The number of 50s increased. So we need to look at those things and look at the importance of those things. I believe, all in all, the improvement we are seeing is the fact that the guys who normally would have been on the road, cutting here, or driving cars, or playing football, or playing music, or hanging on the beach, are now training every day. They have standards, they have coaches working with them, they are measuring the standards. So in just 6 weeks, we could see not having one single player at the minimum international fitness standard, and you saw the change in that. So that's the kind of thing that we want to encourage and see how well we can work with that. Because for West Indies cricket to grow and move forward, for us to make the steps that we want to make at the one-day level and the test level, we need to have a stronger concentration of players being trained with equipment and coaches and guidance to do that thing. And I think we are really achieving that kind of thing. More is required, but again, the assessment that we're going to put in place will identify for us some of the areas where we are weak and where we need to strengthen.
I just like to add, very importantly, we didn't take any decision on it, and maybe that's why I neglected to report. But we had an extensive discussion on the symposium and the meetings we had with our players in Florida, and the next steps. So the next steps are we met with our players. We've asked them to come to the board with suggestions, mainly around the eligibility, and that was the issue about how many games they have to play in the respective regional type setup to be able to qualify to play for the West Indies. We haven't received that feedback as yet, but we intend to engage them again. Our financial year starts October 1, and we were hoping that we would have had some discussions around that, but we didn't want to make any decisions without engaging them, our partners, as we go forward.
Yeah, and the dates. So we agree with them that we'll start looking at the dates to accommodate.
Right. So the Vice President reminded me that we agreed in Miami that we will start looking at dates as to how we can accommodate our players, scheduling, and etc. So that's all part and parcel of the discussions.
I realize that you're focusing a lot on the players, and that's very good and so on, because as you know that we need the players to be. But I really want to find out and so on about the franchises and so on. If the board is satisfied with the way the franchise have been governed in terms of administration in the franchise, because as you know, there's a major part of the level of the success of a franchise. So I want to find out and so on exactly if the board is totally satisfied with the management of the franchise.
No, what I'm saying, if we were totally satisfied, I wouldn't be doing the review. And the review is to get us better.
You mentioned the review of the ODI and the test team test structure. We have a new captain in the ODI and test arena. Any comments on him as to the progress he has made so far, Jason Oda?
We would like to leave the discussion on players to the selectors and the coaches. Obviously, when you look on, we're probably not happy as an organization, as a region, because we're not winning. I think those discussions need to be had with the player and all persons concerned.
Another question to you. I heard that you mentioned that Mr. Sebastian will be replacing Mr. quickly was is the 40 Windward Volcano. Will he still be the manager of the Windward Volcano as he's become a selector now?
I think that would be a discussion for the Windward Island Volcanoes, but I think it would be very difficult. It would be very difficult for him to be a selector and the manager of the Windward Island Volcanoes.
My final question to you, you would have seen the report or the comments made from the former presidents regarding the audits and financial management of the WICB. I know you mentioned earlier that the auditors found basically nothing wrong, but any comments as to what the former presidents have said?
We have no comment on that at this point in time.
Yeah. All we know is that the West Indies Cricket Board is run properly financially. All the financial statements are there on the website for people to see, and there have been significant improvements in recent times. So the West Indies Cricket Board is very well run financially.
Well, my final question, John, so why are the boards under tremendous pressure from the government, from the Caribbean, and also the fertility of the cricketers in the Caribbean?
Well, to be able to answer that question, I think we need to ask ourselves, as the board and as our public, what is it that the public wants from the West Indies Cricket Board? The West Indies Cricket Board has just delivered 3 titles. There's no other cricket board in the world that has 3 titles to its name. The West Indies Cricket Board has just delivered improved performances in our finances. The West Indies Cricket Board has just rolled out the PCL over 2 years, and we just told you that the numbers in our players have improved. You just saw Ruston Chase in his second test match score 137 not out and save a game. So what we need to do is, as a public and as our stakeholders, is to define for us what is it that success, what does success look like? And I think once we agree what success looks like, then I think it's easy to answer that question.
In your opinion, then, would you probably say it's maybe something personal or personal?
I would like to refrain from responding to that. All I'm saying is that as a public, we need to agree what success looks like. And if we know what success looks like, if we agree what the brand, you want this brand to deliver for the West Indian people, and it's people feeling happy about beating 2 billion people in the world, and supporting one of the most celebrated franchises in the history, then that's what we're doing. If you want us to, I don't know, be concerned about everything else, then maybe that's not what we're talking
just say. The cricket belongs to the West Indies people. The cricket belongs to all of us. And that includes the press, and that includes every child, every woman, every man. So that we have to realize that whatever we do impact on, however we think as a people impact on our players, it impacts on the region. So the press on the whole, if they have the information, they need to pass it on to the public. So that when somebody says, a noted sports journalist would say, the West Indies board doesn't publish financial statements. And you, as a press person, knows that if you go on the West Indies board website, you will probably see the last 12 years or so. So it needs correction. So it's probably just a matter of innocent ignorance, if you like. But people need to read more and get acquainted with the facts and not just the rumors.
And on that note, it's a good place to end.